things have been far from ideal for the San Francisco 49ers, and what we need right now is a little bit of hope. Brock Purdy was not at his best last weekend. And Greg Cosell had some insight as to why. Before the game happened, he actually called some of this stuff and then responded after the game to it. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. If we want to see Brock Purdy at his best, I think Cosell's advice is a great place to start. If you're new here, I'm Nate, and I love talking about those 49ers. Please consider a like and sub if you are interested in supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. You know, it makes a difference for me. So Greg Cosell, I mentioned, spoke. He spoke on the Ross Tucker podcast before the game, and then spoke after it, and had some really interesting insights. I want to start kind of in the front and then move backwards and then move forwards again. I think it'll make sense when you get it. But let's start with what Greg Cosell, his overall take on what is going on with Brock Purdy. As a whole, what's going on with him? I think this is fascinating. Give this a listen.
I think that over the last month or so, that Purdy's been playing a little fast. I don't think he's been as comfortable in the pocket. I think there's been times that's resulted him not seeing things as clearly as he has, the large majority of his career. Pressure's been a factor at times, but there've also been some snaps where he's been a little too quick to break down and move. So
I'm going to pause him there, and I'm going to let him finish his thought because he's going to say something else that I think is interesting in a second here. But Brock Purdy is playing a little fast. And you can say that's because of pressure. I think that at times that's the case. But, I mean, we saw revolving doors last season too. All right? I think we've actually improved at the guard position. So what is going on? What's up with the pressure? Is that really the reason that he's playing fast? I don't know. No one can get inside his head and tell you, other than him, why he is playing a little fast. But it does make sense. Be honest with me. It does make sense. Because there are times that he scrambled this season, I felt like, you don't need to scramble yet. That was a little too fast, Brock. Just a little too fast. It happened several times against the Cardinals. And it also happened against the LA Rams, both games that we lost. There were just some moments where it felt like things were just not super tight and comfortable, and that was an issue, okay? That being said, some of those plays worked out. Some of those plays worked out to your advantage, and so you look at it and you're saying, hey, great scramble, Brock. And if he gets tackled for loss, you say, hey, what are you doing, Brock? And I understand that's kind of just a part of what happens when the quarterback leaves the pocket. You want him to be able to extend plays. He does do that very well. And sometimes when he goes to extend plays, things aren't going to go the way you want them to. And we were saying after the Cardinals game, Brock, just throw it away. Just throw it away. If you're in that situation where you're about to take a hit on the sideline, just throw it away. And then he started to do that more, which was great. Happy to see that, of course, both against the Seahawks, and he did that a little bit against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll take that. Now I'm doubting myself on that one. I'll have to double check that. The point, though, I think is absolutely right on, that he is playing a little bit fast. That means that sometimes it's happy feet, and he's breaking out of the pocket unnecessarily. But other times it's decision-making, and I think we saw it against the Kansas City Chiefs. A little bit of I don't know how much of it was confusion against what Spagnuolo's doing and how that scheme is playing out, or how much of it is player not where he's expecting the player to be, like on that one to Ronnie Bell where he overshoots him by 10 yards. And he said he thought Ronnie Bell was going to break in a different spot. Essentially, Ronnie Bell broke out better than he anticipated, is kind of how he said it. So that's an interesting one. All three of the interceptions are different in their own right. Cosell was actually really positive about the third interception in the red zone, and kind of was like, that actually was a really good, you have to be careful, but I can see what he's trying to do there, and the play was actually developing. It would have been in the right spot had he not gotten hit, and like all of that. It's like, okay, I'll take one. Take one of those being more positive. Whatever the case, we got to get to this other thing that Cosell kind of identified beforehand and then talked about after. And I want to get in. I think there's a great discussion here. So I'm going to go to the Ross Tucker podcast clip, and I'm going to play that for you. Give this a listen. We're not going to listen to what he said about Patrick Mahomes, even though he was right about Patrick Mahomes, because it doesn't matter. We already know the result. Oh, I did it again. I gotta. There we go. Okay.
The Niners are not, sort of Kyle Shanahan's Niners from 4 or 5 years ago. Purdy's in the gun over 80% of his dropbacks. This is not the old school Niners with Kyle where you thought play action under center. They're not really like that. Yet, and play action, as a matter of fact, they're not even close to among the highest percentage play action pass games in the league. This is much more Purdy in the gun drop back pass game. And on the other side,
and I want to stop him there because I don't care about the other side because I already saw what happened. Very, very interesting point. And he responds to that later when he was with Willard and Dibbs the other day. And I want to play that for you. But to this point, that is like a really good insight. Because a lot of us have been saying it's really frustrating to not see more play action. It's really frustrating at times to feel like we're not trying new things. We're not doing screen passes. Like we need to set up some more creative play. And what was one of the most fascinating takes on the Kansas City Chiefs game for me was Bonta Hill talking on the morning roast about how the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid approached their injury-related issues completely differently. Andy Reid's response to the injuries was to dial up some situations where, hey, this dude might not be able to catch the ball, but he can run the ball, and he's pretty great after the catch. So we're gonna dial up some options for him where we're handing the ball off to him, or we're throwing the ball short to him, and we're letting him do his thing. And we didn't see the 49ers doing that with guys like Jacob Cowing, for example, who could have been in there doing some of Deebo's moves where you have that pace. Let's put that pace to work and see what happens. So there were just certain things that Andy Reid did that were more creative with those players that maybe you don't see going out there and chucking up a 50-50 ball deep, right? And why didn't Kyle Shanahan do some of that creative stuff? So I'm interested to see now with having multiple days this week without Deebo and thinking probably when he's in the hospital, there's no shot he's going to play, to then saying, okay, maybe I have Deebo, but he's already had time to scheme against the Cowboys without Deebo. And hopefully, there's going to be a better response to what we're going to do if Deebo doesn't play. Either if he has limited snaps or he's not game ready, or he's game ready and then things aren't going super well and he's huffing and puffing and they're nervous about how that's going to go. Whatever the case plays out, you can't be unprepared twice in a row for a game without Deebo. You can't be unprepared twice in a row. We know the risk now. So now Kyle Shanahan needs to be dialed up and ready to go on that. I'm going to let Greg Cosell finish what he was saying earlier because I think it further adds to the point in terms of formation. Give this a listen and let me know what you think about Brock Purdy being under center more and some more play action. I think play action is best when you're under center. That's just my opinion, but we'll go from there.
Again, I'm not Kyle Shanahan. I don't know what he plans on doing this week, in their matchup against Dallas, a team that they obviously beat handily a year ago, and they're definitely going to be without Lawrence, and they could well be without Parsons. To me, you got to get back to what you do really well. You got to get back. You got to put Purdy under center, which, by the way, he's been under center on his drop back passes this year less than 20% of the time. So I think you got to put him under center, get back to your play action run game, use your inside your zone run game. You got to get back to me. And again, Kyle might disagree totally. He knows his people way better than I do. But I think you sort of have to get back to what you kind of do well.
Yeah, and I think
I love that take, by the way, because it's one of those things that you look at a team who has so much talent and is doing stuff that's not working. It's like, do what works. Just focus on what works. I'm sure that's wildly oversimplified. But the 49ers have historically been good at certain things. You've got Jordan Mason out there running the ball like a banshee. You're like, give the kid the ball. If those two runs that are for like 8 to 10 yards apiece, those two runs that get called back in the first half against the Kansas City Chiefs are the best runs of the first half for Jordan Mason. Both of them get called back, and we don't commit to the run game, and then pretty much the rest of the game. You get a few moments there in the third quarter where I feel like, okay, we're starting to look more like ourselves out there. But, just it's tricky, guys. It's tricky. I get it. I'm not a professional coach, but it does feel like, hey, shouldn't we be like doing the thing that we're really good at? And then like the extra stuff comes after that. Shouldn't that be our like base strategy? I don't know. Maybe we overthought it. Maybe we underthought it. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we just weren't ready to make a change considering the loss of Deebo. Maybe we just weren't ready for that. We didn't have a contingency plan in place ready to go, which the number of times Deebo has been injured, we should have a contingency plan. My goodness. That's just where I'm at. Let me know where you're at. It's just a fan talking to other fans. I'm not an expert. That's just what I think. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to think in the comments. It's time to be alive.